right there. It's brought to you by Digi-Key and Adafruit. Every single week, a leading user part of engineering help you as you find the things you're looking for on Digi-Key.com. It's time to update this graphic with the new overhead because there was no reason to really have this as the graphic now because we have new graphics. So first thing I'm going to do is disappear this one.
Okay,
bye. Just say, oops.
See you later, alligator.
Just say bye.
Bye.
Then we want to add the new one.
Do it.
That's if you need the overhead, right?
I will not use the overhead for the rest of this, but yeah, here's the overhead. Okay, you know, these are some chips.
Kind of nice. Okay, and then for here, this is when we're going to need to use the computer.
Yeah.
Because in the sense of talking about the site, Digi-Key without, you need Digi-Key.
Okay, great. So we got a request this week, actually 2 weeks ago. Folks love the CAN bus feather wing. That's our way of adding CAN to any of our feathers over SPI, so you don't have to have native CAN support. We also have a CAN BFF. Ditto, this lets you add CAN to any board that has CAN support. And what's nice is that it uses the MCP2515. So this and that feather wing, which uses the MCP2515, are like kind of the most classic CAN adapters. Like if you don't have native CAN support in your chip, which a lot of chips don't, it's SPI to CAN, so it's like very easy. There's drivers in like every language. We have it in Arduino, we have it in Python. People have their drivers for Linux. There's drivers for like every chipset because again, it's inexpensive and common and easy to use. You don't only need like SPI and then reset and standby if you want. And then you have some protection here, and then we have an optional terminator. But the person said, hey, I like the MCP2515, which is, data sheet is here. Boop. But this chip is a little older. First designed in 2003, and it only has CAN. It doesn't have CAN FD. And they're like, can you make a version that has CAN FD support? And I was like, I don't know what that is because I'm not a big CAN person. But CAN FD is flexible data rate, which actually, if you use CAN, is kind of like obvious because one of the things that's a little annoying about CAN is it is a multi-drop network, but everybody on the network has to have the same baud rate. So you kind of have to pick like 250 kilobit per second, whatever, 100, 25, 3. You have to pick some number and everyone's got to talk on it. You can like listen in and sort of figure out what is the baud rate that's being used, but it'd be kind of neat if it's like flexible and you add new devices. They could automatically adapt to whatever baud rate's on there and then transmit in a way that's detectable by everybody else. And so this was done in like 2012, which makes sense that the MCP2515 is like in early 2000s, was designed before CAN FD. So what we should do is let's find if there's a chip that's like the 2515 and the 26525, which is the CAN controller plus transceiver all in one, and find if we can update our designs. Hopefully don't have to even do much firmware update to get that working. So first up, let's look at the 2515 so we know where it is. Carmen San Diego. It is under interface controllers, and it's like a CAN bus controller. So, and it says CAN 2.0. It doesn't say CAN FD, so maybe that's what we have to look for. But let's go to controllers. And as always, we're going to pick active and normally stocking. And okay, great. So there's like USB controllers and there's USB host, and this is a hub. So it's kind of like this category is sort of like a little bit of everything. Let's find CAN bus. Okay, look, there's CAN over here, and then there's interface over here. So yeah, this is like USB to serial. There's a lot of options here. So the protocol, and then the function and the interface. So it looks like, because there's like SPI to CAN here, and this is MCP series. So we want interface SPI, because that's basically the same as what we had for the 2515. So let's go to interface and let's type in SPI. And there's like a bunch of, we'll just select them all because whatever. And then the protocol is CAN or CAN bus because they're two names for the same thing, right, pretty much. Okay, cool. So now we have about 35 results. That's great. It's a much smaller number. So we've got that MCP2515. What's interesting is that you can kind of tell Microchips sort of owns this category, which is cool. So 2501, 2518, 2515. The only thing that's a little annoying is they don't tell you which is which. There's also one by Holt. It's like $15. We want something inexpensive. So the question is, how do we know? Well, this is one of the situations where I'd actually say go back to the site where, like, if there's only one supplier, like sometimes it's just like, wow, like only ST or TI or Microchip or Analog Devices or Maxim makes like this particular thing and they have a family of them. I would just say like go to their site. They have like a microsite or a page for that product like they do here. And then you can search within it. So looks like they call CAN2 and CAN-FD separate. This is an MCU, MPU, and we want transceiver, I think that's, or controllers. Yeah, we want the controller, right? Because that's, yeah, the MCP2515 is here. And let's view all the parametrics. Let me see if we can get some more details. Hold on. And then, okay. So yeah, here there is a selector for does it support CAN-FD? And the answer is the 2518 and the 2517 do. What is the difference between the two? Let's see. Let's compare these. Can we compare? Okay, so looks like they have different pricing, same voltages. Wish we could say like just show me, yeah, just show me differences. Looks like there's a little bit, it's a little bit slower on the 2518, only 17 megahertz, which is still quite fast, and a little bit more current. Otherwise, it looks pretty similar, and the pricing is kind of significant. Look, if you really need 20 megahertz, pick the 2517. Otherwise, let's go back, and then we can now select the MCP2518 series from here. So let's search for MCP2518. Let's see what comes up, because there's going to be a bunch of options. Okay, so yes, they have a ton. They even have, we didn't mean to, but this is the version that is with the transceiver built in. That's the separate, like differential 5-volt manager that often is separated, but in this case, they just plunk it into one die. And it's not too much more expensive, to be honest. You can get the 2513 for like 160 and the non-integrated one for 148. Honestly, it's like the same price as if you did get that separate chip. So unless you need a separate chip, I think it's a transceiver. That's probably fine. What's cool is they have it both DFN, nice compact, and easy to solder SOIC. They do not have dip. Looks like there's a couple different, there's extended temperature maybe. Yeah, this one does up to 150 degrees C. This one does 125. Different temperature ratings. They've got the all-in-one. So the all-in-one is what I would use. Let's just look for in stock right now. The all-in-one is what I would use for the BFF, the QFN, which is kind of nice and compact. But for the Featherwing, I would use the SOIC. Why not? It's easy to solder. Or maybe the DFN, also nice and compact. So let's look at development. One second. Dev boards. Featherwing. Nope. Featherwings. CAN. And I did a design earlier this month, and you can see, yeah, I just swapped in the 2518 here instead of that bigger SOIC. Almost no other component needed changing. There's like one less pin, there's no reset. So I disconnected the reset pin, but other than that, everything else pretty much stayed the same. I added a switch for the terminator, But this was very easy to do. So, I'm going to get those prototypes back. But, I think if you're going to add CAN to a product now, since it seems like most people want CAN FD and the pricing is almost the same between the 2515, 2518, just upgrade to the 2518. The driver is a little bit different, but there's example code for both. And that way you get backwards compatibility, but also works with those flexible data rate networks that some people have for their CAN buses. So that's my pick for the Great Search.
That's great search.
Where in the world is that part I need?